What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is Hav here, one of your hosts from the Real Fan Review. Today with me, we got our man in the chair, Al.
How's it going, everybody?
We got my brother, your brother, B.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, deuces, bitches. Yeah, man, listen, tonight, man, we're going to be talking about that Morbius trailer that just came out last week. And we got a chance to see the Eternals from Marvel, the MCU. So we're going to talk about that in a non-spoiler and spoiler filled. But probably non-spoiler is not going to be too long. So there's a lot to say about this movie. So we're going to definitely do non-spoiler really quickly and go right into the spoiler. Let's start off with that Morbius trailer. Al, that trailer came out last week. Actually, didn't add too many new scenes, but a couple things here and there.
Yeah.
But the thing that got everybody buzzing, Al, was there was little things in the background and stuff that was said that kind of made it seem it was in the Venom universe. There was things that made it sound like it was in the MCU universe. There was things in the background that was the Amazing Spider-Man universe. And there was a Daily Bugle that looked like it was in the Tobey Maguire. Not Tobey Maguire. It was no, Toby. What's the first Spider-Man?
Yeah, it's Toby
Maguire. Yeah, you're right.
Why do I think Tobey Maguire was the guy that says with the guy from Mission Impossible?
Oh, Tom Cruise?
What does he say? Give me the money. Show me the money. That's not Tobey Maguire, right?
No, Jerry Maguire.
Oh. Way to start the podcast.
I just pictured Tobey Maguire.
I can hear Maguire in my head. I'm like, that's not the right man.
You know, Jerry Maguire and Tobey Maguire are pretty like relatable now that, we know Tobey Maguire is like this big card shark, in Las Vegas. So, it makes sense now.
But yeah, man. But listen, there's a whole bunch of different clues, innuendos to these different universes, and that's the thing that stuck out from this trailer. Besides the fact that the Morbius trailer was pretty cool too to look at. What were your thoughts, Al? Where are we headed with Morbius?
I have no idea. Like the only thing I could take was they're trying so hard just to dabble in everything so that everybody can do like what we're doing now. Like, oh, what universe is this, and that, and to me, it's like they're trying too hard to jump on everybody's interest of the multiverse instead of just going with one. To your point, they can't be in all of the universes at the same time with one character.
Right.
I'm wanting to lean more towards the Venom universe, like they're in that side, only because that was the one that was verbalized. Like that's where he actually said, "Oh, I'm Venom," like
right.
like as if he knew that there was this character. And they made reference to Venom because they say that what he did was worse than that case in California. So they reference Venom and what he did. Mm-hmm. So I want to say it's in the Venom universe, whatever that is. But then it just brings up the question, like, does that mean Venom and Spider-Man are going to have to come back? Because in the end of Venom 2, they go over to the MCU. So are they going to have to bring them back in order for this big ensemble movie that they're planning to happen?
Right.
Because I'm assuming there's going to be a Morbius, Venom, Spider-Man crossover if you're going to make reference to them in each other's movies now. So be interesting to see how they bring Venom back after they just moved them over to the MCU.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, Brandon, you got a lot of people looking at the things from Oscorp in the background. One of the buildings is there from Oscorp, which is from the Amazing Spider-Man, that kind of like text font that they used. You got the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on the wall that has the rating murderer. Now, the thing that everybody's confused with the murderer thing is that a reference to the Tom Holland Spider-Man killing Mysterio, quote unquote, but with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. So it's kind of like, is it a blend? Is this what the multiverse is blending all the universes together?
I actually think that Sony's playing us with these trailers. And this is just a TV spot. Like, they're just doing these things in there to hype us up and ask these questions. And none of this is going to be in the actual movie, save for maybe the Oscorp building in the background. Just because, like, I think the one giveaway for me was when he said, "I am Venom." And nobody knows what Venom is other than like 3 people. So like no one knew who Venom was at the end of Venom 2. It's still kind of a secret what Venom is. So for him to say I am Venom, like I think they're saying things and putting things as a way of like to have us wonder what the fuck's going on, kind of a thing. But
Right.
I think this is going to be set in one of the universes, and it's going to find its way into the MCU universe. I think they keep putting things to trick us, but I think this is going to be set in one universe, and half that stuff was in the trailer is never going to reach the movie.
Gotcha. I mean, listen, as a trailer by itself, regardless of the Spider-Man and Venom universe stuff, the trailer actually was pretty interesting. Something I'm looking forward to, but at the same time, it wasn't something that was like, oh my god, this is something I need to see. But it was definitely an interesting trailer. The whole like him deforming because of the whole vampirism of the bats and stuff like that. That seems kind of weird and stuff. But the powers that they showed, him flowing and flying through things, or was it floating with style, or because of the subway breeze? Yeah. But
just I wish I had that subway breeze.
Yeah, man. I mean, did anything from that trailer impress you guys? That besides the Spider-Man nods and stuff like that?
I would say the full Morbius look, that full vampire look, was really good in terms of like the graphics on it.
Oh yeah.
I was really convinced on a lot of that when he did the vampire face. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. I just, my whole thing is like, I think the real problem with this movie is Jared Leto. I don't think any of us are convinced that Jared Leto can do a good job. I certainly, for one, I'm not a big Jared Leto fan as it is. Like, I'm Jared Leto. I'm sorry if you're listening. I just generally don't think Jared Leto is like a great person. Mm-hmm. So like having him as the role or the star in this movie, I'm kind of already iffy because I'm not a big Jared Leto fan as it is. So like I just don't have faith when they're not giving me a lot, and he's not really shining in these trailers to make me say, wow, I changed my perspective on him as an actor, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I hear you, man, because the only two movies I really have in my mind of Jared Leto, unfortunately, is Suicide Squad as the Joker, and also his role with, what was the movie that HBO Max, the first one?
Little Things? Little Things?
The Little Dumpster Fire?
The Little Dumpster Fire, yeah. Yeah, in Little Things, he just played like a weirdo, and it was just like, all right, nothing crazy. But Al, anything for you in the trailer that made you really like it more?
Just I didn't know he was that powerful. Like I've always heard of Morbius as a character and that he was like the vampire of the MCU and everything. But I've just never really known anything further about him. So just to see that he had all of these abilities just made me want to see the movie more, to see how it plays out and the character and how he evolves and develops. It looked interesting. What it would be interesting if they do bring him over to the MCU would be like a Morbius Blade movie. Yeah. Now that they alluded to Blade, which I'm sure we'll be talking about later. But that would be an interesting kind of crossover. I don't know if they've ever done it. B, you could probably tell us better. I don't know if that's ever happened in the comics. So
yeah, I actually think Morbius made Blade the Daywalker, right?
No, he didn't make Blade, but they did fight a lot.
Okay.
Cool.
And then they joined sides to fight Dracula, which is pretty cool. Dracula's in the MCU, by the way. Yeah.
Let's see, man. But listen, that's the Morbius trailer kind of review for us there. Again, a couple of good scenes in the Morbius trailer. A lot of the stuff that people were talking about, of course, are the universe stuff, and we'll see what happens because we have Spider-Man No Way Home coming out next month. Hopefully, that'll give us a little bit more of the answers to what's really the hell going on here. Personally, I think it's a blend of the universes, but we'll see. But yeah. That's Morbius for us there. And let's talk about the thing that we're really here to talk about today, which is the Marvel's Eternals, the newest chapter in the MCU cinematic universe there. I don't know what's going on with these critics, man.
Yeah. I don't know what's up with that.
Now, listen, I get how Rotten Tomatoes works. You know, it's not that all these critics are saying that it's bad. It's just less than 50% of the people who watched it said that you shouldn't watch it. They're fucking crazy. So, uh, so listen, right off the bat, we're gonna do a non-spoilers review of the Marvel's Eternals, and we're gonna go into the non-spoiler now, and then spoilers in a few minutes here. So just really quick, Brandon, overall thoughts of Marvel's Eternals?
I thought it was great. I'm gonna jump to the you should see it because I think it was incredible. I think the only thing that the critics saw is in terms of like in watching it, I didn't feel like I was watching a Marvel movie. I felt like I was watching something completely separate from the makers of Marvel movies. Kind of a thing. Like it just felt like something that could stand on its own. I kind of hope it does stand on its own in a sense because it was great. It felt like it had superhero elements, like kind of like watching The Watchmen, you know?
Mhm.
It just had that feel to it. Like I was watching a superhero movie by the makers of superhero movies, but this had nothing to do with the MCU. And that's my only kind of weird thing. And I told you that in the movie theater, like it just didn't feel like MCU, but I
Right.
thought the movie was incredible. I think they made 10 characters work on screen, and it did very well.
Yeah, I would think besides a few nods to the MCU characters, there really wasn't anything else that made this an MCU movie.
Mhm.
And if I could describe it best, is like if you guys remember Marvel movies before MCU came along, where we had the X-Men, we had Spider-Man, we had Blade going on. They weren't connected, but they were Marvel movies. This is what this kind of felt like. Besides the nods, it felt like its own little separate comic book movie that was made, and it kind of made it really interesting and cool because it made it like really, really deep and interesting, philosophical.
Mhm.
It was very, very crazy to even like the thinking I had after the movie was very cool, which we'll get into in the spoiler section. But I would say you should see it. I wouldn't say need to see it because it does get a little weird. Like I always try to figure out like, is this a movie I could take my wife to, or someone who is not into comic book movies and they'll like it? I don't think she'd like this movie. You know what I mean? Because when we see Arsham, she's like, "All right, I'm done. I'm done. That's enough for me. I'm good. Thank you."
Yeah.
So when you see things like that, you got to kind of like, yeah, it's a little out there. So, so I think you should see it. It's a good movie and kind of different from like a lot of these longer movies. This movie was 2 hours and like 40 minutes, 2 hours 36 minutes. Dude, did not feel like it at all. It felt like the movie just went and you followed the story along the path. It wasn't boring. There wasn't a lot of action scenes besides, beginning, middle, and end pretty much. But the story that was in between there was just so, I want to say captivating because it was like I was interested to know more, the past, the future, not the future, the past and the present pretty much. It was what they were going back and forth with. But just to kind of think about the future, like, what does this stuff mean? You know what I mean? Like all the stuff that they're showing us, like, dude, how do we go from Thanos to this? Like, hey, like Avengers are not seeing this guy, or what might be coming. So, again, I think you should see it. It's a good story. I think the actors in this are pretty great as well. I really have nothing but just good stuff to say about this movie. So you guys should definitely check it out, especially if you're a Marvel fan or MCU fan, or if you're just a comic book fan of the Eternals. I think this is going to be worth the watch for you guys. Al, how about yourself, man? Talk to me, man. What's your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah, same thing. I think I even texted you the next morning, like, "Yo, what were these critics saying?" Because I went into this movie expecting something horrible. I kept waiting for something bad that I can say, "Okay, I see where the critics had a problem with that, or why they're saying, okay, from a critic's point of view, this is a bad movie." But I've seen worse movies get better reviews from critics. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the problem is the movie has so much buildup and hype that I think they just wanted to have a problem with it because, and like Brandon said, you have 10 characters in this movie that have never been on the screen for any of these Marvel movies, have never been referenced in any Marvel movie. So you literally had 10 characters that had to be introduced, explained, developed in one 2 hour and 45-minute movie. So they had to play with 10 characters in a way so that at the end of the movie, we're vested in them. We're affected if any of them die. We're hoping for them to succeed in whatever the mission is for the movie. So that's tough for four. Like when they did the Avengers, they had to give 4 people, 5 people screen time. You got 10, and a lot of them are, they're not no-name actors, so you have to give them, some airtime. And I thought they did it all in a good way, and it all made sense. It had depth to it. There's one character I wish was on screen a little bit more, but it still worked with the way they were telling the story and the story that they were giving us. So I don't understand why the critics scored it so low. I'm not saying it's the greatest movie,
right?
But it's not horrible. Okay? It's not a rotten. There's no reason why it should even be close to rotten.
Yeah,
I
and
think politics found their way into this movie, and I think that's the whole point, because there are certain themes in this movie, certain things that I can see a traditional Marvel fan not liking, certain characters, sexual orientation, and a lot of the reviews I saw kept saying the word woke. Oh, this movie is very woke, and I think it's just politics found its way into this movie for some reviewers, and I think that's the only thing they could see past the movie was the problems they had with it politically.
Yeah, but and even that I don't understand why. That's the problem when you go outside and you go into the politics now. Everybody is too far on each side because there was none of that was pushed to any extent where it was too much of the movie. Right. The fact that one of the characters is homosexual and so forth. It's not in a way that it takes away from. If anything, to me, it added to the story. It explained why he was wanting to do what he needed to do. That he had a family. He was the only one of them that ends up with a family, and that's why he was the way he was. He has that original tragedy that made him turn away, and then he finds this love, and it brings him back, and restores, and so forth. So. The fact that he found that love in another man, to me, didn't take away from the movie. It's irrelevant.
It was that he found it.
Yeah,
it's just part of his story.
So the fact that people say, "Oh, it's woke," it's because you wanted that story to be the way you would have wanted the character to find love.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what happens is, and the problem with all these people being too far on their own side is, if you're not telling the story or you're not telling something the way they want it told, all of a sudden you're trying to force your way on them. But by insisting that they not, aren't you doing the same thing?
Yeah.
So it's like, just shut up, just accept stuff the way it is.
Just watch the damn movie.
If it wasn't too heavy-handed.
It really wasn't.
No.
I think that aspect took up, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, not even, of a 2 hour, almost 3 hour movie, and you're saying it's come on.
I almost wish he had more time, to be honest.
Yeah, come on. Like I said, you want to see why these people are doing what they're doing. Let us see and get more of that reason. Come on, whatever.
And
it was a good movie.
Sense. Yeah, I think everything made sense as far as the diversity of the cast, the difference in sexual orientation, in you had a deaf person in the team as well. I think it was to match the society that they were being put into, right? If they all were just one set group of people, how do you really blend in with everybody? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a nice way to put diversity into the MCU, and it wasn't something like, oh my God, you're pushing your agenda on me. It wasn't that at all. So I don't know. I don't see that part of it.
Yeah.
But with all the good and all the stuff that they did right with this stuff, was there something that you could say without spoiling anything that didn't work for you, Brandon or Al?
I would say, as much as I love the story, there was a very big predictability of where the story was going from the minute the movie started. And That was the only thing, and I think you and I at like every point in the movie were like, like 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 we predicted like more than half the plot in the first 10 minutes of the movie. We're like, oh, I wish that wasn't as obvious, So like
It was a little
that's my
obvious,
only
yeah.
thing is as deep as a movie it was in certain ways and the way it played out certain things. I just wish that there wasn't a huge predictability to it.
Gotcha. How about you, Al, man? Is anything that didn't work for you that you saw in the movie?
Yeah, well, in terms of the deviants, I wish they had stayed a little bit more truer to the story of the deviants and the Eternals and how they came to be and so forth. I wish they had stayed along that route, because then it would have made, at least to me, more sense as to why they were against each other.
Gotcha.
Other than, there's deviants and then the Eternals was sent. I mean, Arishem explains it, but it goes into something that I can't get into without spoiling, other parts.
Right.
But it just drew a lot of problems with, especially the aspect of their evolvement. The way they evolved throughout the movie in terms of the deviants. Like, it didn't make sense that this was so able to happen so quickly. Whereas if they had stayed true to the way that the deviants were the same, like the Eternals and deviants were the same, it's just the deviants had a variant gene. Like, I would have rather that story play out.
Right.
Than the deviants just being monsters. Like, that's where they lost me with that one.
Gotcha. My one gripe is one of Al's things that he doesn't like in certain movies with the MCU is them pretty much making something happen for future stuff, right? And there's one thing in this movie that I think that they didn't need at all, and that's Kit Harington. You guys know Kit Harington's in this movie because of the trailers, and they pretty put him out there. Oh, the Black Knight's in the movie and stuff like that. You could have taken him out of this movie, and it wouldn't have affected nothing. Yeah. Nothing. He had a few scenes in the movie, the beginning, the end, done. So, Kit Harington could have not been in the movie. There's no real need to kind of push this Black Knight thing on us now. They could have done it later on. Listen, it's cool for us as the fans to know who his character will become later on. But there was really no purpose for him to be in this movie. They could have probably easily gave that to one of the characters of the Eternals to give them more of a background, more of a story that we could have connected with more. But other than that, to me, I thought the movie was pretty damn good, man. Yeah. So, yeah, listen, that's the most we're going to be able to say, because we want to definitely dive into the questions, the actors, the roles, the decisions that they've made, and that's what you're going to get in the spoiler section. Because listen, if you know Marvel movies, everything's a damn spoiler, because there's something that leads to something that leads to something, and it's hard to talk about these movies. So that is our non-spoiler review. You heard it from all of us. You should see this movie. It's pretty good. Do not listen to the rottenness of this. Don't listen to the critics that are killing it. It's few and far between where the critics agree. For the most part, critics agree with us when we think the movie's really good. Like, I think they killed Joker in the Rotten Tomatoes, and all these other critics didn't like Joker. Joker was phenomenal. You know what I mean? And then there's Venom that came out, the first Venom. People didn't like that one a lot. It was a fun time. We liked it. So this is another one of those, So go check it out. Give it your own thought. It's not going to be the best MCU movie you've ever seen, but it's definitely not worse than The Dark World or Iron Man 3. None of those. It's a lot better than a lot of those movies. So
yeah, because it's the worst reviewed critically MCU movie.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Crazy. Yeah, man. So listen, we're gonna go into the spoiler section now, and this is where we're gonna have some fun, because there's so much to talk about here. So we're diving into the spoilers right now. If you haven't seen the movie, pause it, come back to us. Well, pause us, come back to us after you watch the movie, and then see if you agree with some of the thoughts that we have regarding Marvel's Eternals. So, Al, man, talk to me, man. What was the thing that didn't work for you that you said you couldn't really talk about in the non-spoilers there?
Was that with the deviants, like that? Like, if they had done what the comic said, was again that they were created from as offshoots of humans, and then they were created to be the same. It's just that deviants developed some kind of a gene, and that's how they became the deviants, and then they fought each other. to make them monsters and then they evolved because this one was able to absorb their powers. To me, I felt like that was just a reach. It was something they created for this movie that they didn't need to.
Right.
Because then, like at the end, there was nothing to expand on that. Whereas if you just have them be the way they were supposed to be from the comics, then you could have gone on and you could have explained how Thanos was a deviant, how, and would have explained why him and his brother look so different, even though they're from the same parents. Like there was so much that they could have done had they just stayed with the original, that it's a gene issue and not
the Eternals weren't robots.
Yeah, come on. So but
that was an interesting damn call.
Yeah, but they can have kids. I didn't understand that part. So, I didn't like that part. But in terms of like the whole, I wish Salma Hayek's character had more screen time. But I don't know. They had to make a call.
I actually like how they handled Salma Hayek. In terms of
but that's just me, a personal wish.
Kind of putting her things in there.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see her wanting to do a superhero movie. So the fact that the scenes that she got were as important as they were, I was like, oh yeah, she probably liked that a lot.
Yeah. But they could have tried to
see that.
See what?
Did you guys see that coming? That her character died off in the movie so fast?
No.
Oh wait, hold on. It's my favorite scene. Ajak is dead. Ajak is dead. All of a sudden, cue to Icarus. Deviant did it.
And me and you looked at each other. Yeah. He did. He did it.
The Deviant did it.
Yeah, the one I'm telling you, like I said last, the fact that they brought Superman and Batman and made reference to both of them in the movie, I was cracking up. And the fact that he goes, "I don't wear a cape." Okay, I was laughing. I was laughing for a few minutes on that one. It just, I've never seen them reference each other in a movie like that blatantly. So I just found that amusing.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool, man. I think one of the things that didn't work for me again was, besides the whole Kit Harington thing, was just like Brandon kind of said. I think it was right in the first action scene that they had with the Deviant finding them in London, was when Icarus showed up. I'm like, how did he know to be there? That was my first thought. And then he's fighting off the Deviant here, and I looked at Brandon, I'm like, I was like, something's off with this guy. And the way he was talking was just so weird, But in regards to what you were saying, Al, about the deviants, you've had a whole bunch of deviants for these 7,000 years, they keep saying. And then finally there's this one that has tentacles that could take things. That was just kind of like, all right, I get you just wrote that in there so we can make this happen, So because even with all the deviants that came, he was the only one that ever had that power to do that.
Yeah.
So with what they say, evolution was the reason.
Yeah. But meanwhile, they were stuck under that ice for all those years. So how did they evolve?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, man. But we took it, and again, the deviants, like, they played a small role in the movie. A lot of it was kind of like the Skrull situation, where it was like, oh, you're just thinking we're the bad guys because of how we look, and we're not really the bad guys. So you are. So, but let's talk about the stuff that worked, man. And I think the thing that worked the most was the powers of the Eternals. I don't know about you guys, but my favorite power out of all the Eternals, Gilgamesh.
Okay,
dude, the way that he had the power to just punch the shit out of things. Wait, how about the pimp slap in Babylon? Oh,
it was funny. Like, he did like the same thing over and over, but it worked every time.
And you felt the force of those punches, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Al, was there a Eternal that stood out for you as far as power base?
Not power base, but in the sense that when I thought back about what they were going through, it made the story that much more sense. And to me, it showed the little nuances that they did have in this movie that helped the story go along and helped everything play out. And that's what's the name's character? Athena.
Dean, okay.
Yeah, like, the fact that she was having the issue that they just thought was, oh, it's too many memories. They just
Mad weary, I think it was.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there was a defect in their, the fact that they're like, I guess, robots, for lack of a better way of explaining what they are, and that this was a malfunction in the programming and not a medical condition. And then when you backtrack all of that and how they go from thinking and pitying her because they thought something was wrong with her to realizing, no, you've unconsciously known the truth all along. Like, it just showed those little dynamics and nuances of the story and the way they were playing out the grander tale and experience. Just made me enjoy, again, these little things in the story that, yes, you needed it to be long in order to experience and for it to properly play out. And I thought they did a good job of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. How about for you, Brandon? Any Eternal stand out for you?
I mean, I actually love the parallel between Icarus and the rest of the team and how they all look to Icarus as he is the strongest of them all because he can fly, super strength, and laser vision, and so when it came to light that he was a bad guy, they pulled a comic switch on us because in the comics, Druig is the bad guy.
Right.
And Icarus is like he's really our Superman. So to kind of put the bait and switch there, where it made it look like Druig was going to be the bad guy, that moment where everybody looked at Kingo and they were like, you're the next, like, one other than Thena. So, like, you got to do something. And he's like, I'm not as strong as Icarus. Like that moment there where when he went bad and everyone just looked at Kingo and Kingo was like, fuck it, I'm sorry. That was a really interesting moment for me.
Yeah. He's like, come on, guys. It's Icarus.
Yeah. Like, he had to, like, talk himself down to the others when he was almost, he's got the laser shooting, power, the Kamehameha wave, like he had the Dragon Ball Z going on. And so, like, to say, like, to see that he had that power and was still so much weaker than Icarus, and he was kind of like the next other than Thena. Like, it was very interesting to see that parallel there.
What'd you guys think? Because you brought up Kingo just now. With Kingo's character, by the way, Camille Nanjiani kind of killed it with his role in this movie.
Great.
Yeah. What's you guys' thoughts on where the Eternals, as a team, they all philosophically kind of had to make a decision on what side they were on. And I think one of the things that I keep hearing a complaint on is that Kingo left, that he didn't join in the battle at the end. He kind of said, like, listen, I disagree with you guys. I think we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do by Arsham. That's what our function is, pretty much. And that's all we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to do this or that. And he said, you know what? But I love my family, or I respect my family, so I will not fight against you guys. And he dipped off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where you had other characters were like, no, I'm with Icarus, or no, I'm against that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What was your take on all that?
I think, they spent 7,000 years on this planet teaching humans, but also learning from them. And so he developed his own philosophical views. Yes, they are sentient robots who have a function and a primary function, but they developed their own ideals as people. With Phasphos, and he was a part of the atomic bomb that was in Hiroshima. And how he made that decision that technology should be advanced even more. Like, we have the ability to advance technology, so I'm going to do it. And then look at the consequence, that happened was he saw his device being used because he pushed technology forward. Where Kingo was happy with the life he had, but he understood that, from his point of view, well, I think that we were meant to have this purpose. I don't see us having to change it. That's the point of view he decided to have. Even though it seemed a little conflicting with the character type that he had, at the end of the day, that was his point of view, while they all had their own. Sprite decided that she loved Icarus so much for 7,000 years that I'm going to follow him regardless of his position. So like, I like the fact that they were all individuals. It wasn't, we're superheroes and we have to save the day. It's, I'm a person, and I have objectives and I have feelings and I feel certain ways about politics and X, Y, and Z. It was almost like the Civil War situation with Tony Stark and Captain America.
Absolutely, yeah.
I believe this, and I don't see why you don't. And there's both sides saying that. So I like that they had their own internal conflicts and personalities and ideals.
Yeah, I mean, they were on that ship and they had that argument right then and there when Icarus kind of like just gave up. It's like, I'm tired of playing this game. Like
he's like, fuck it.
Like, I'm done. I'm done playing this game. And he messed everything up. And you had Jurek Makari, Cersei, and you had Athena, and pretty much that was that scene. Then you had Kingo, Sprite, and Icarus on one side as well. Fastos with the with the team of saving the planet. How'd you feel with all that stuff going on there?
I just felt like it was the way any family dynamic would be. Like you had Icarus who was saying, no, this was our mission. This like almost kind of like militaristic, like this is our mission. This is what we're supposed to do. That's what we're going to do, even if I have to force you guys to do it. And he took his hardline stance. And then with Mangiani's character, like I could see where he's coming from to that point of like, we're family. He said, I agree with Icarus. I'm just not about to fight you guys over it. So when you have the decision is either I fight my family in order to get them to do what I agree, or I just back out altogether. He chose to back out instead of fighting his family. So I can appreciate that stance of saying, listen, we don't agree, but I'm not, you're not going to make me see your side and I'm not going to make you see my side unless we fight. And that's not what I'm about. So I'm going to just leave and let it settle. Whereas Icarus was willing to fight to the point of killing in order to get it done. So, and look at where it got him at the end. He realized how wrong he was, and he ends up killing himself by flying into the sun. So
deep.
Yeah. So, it's like one of those dynamics, and that's what I kept saying. Like, we live our lives with our families for, decades if we're lucky. Imagine thousands of years. You're living with these people side by side, fighting with them and so forth. It's just like any family dynamic. You're going to have people who handle the conflict and the disagreements differently. And that's just how I took it. Some people will stand and fight with each other until they win their point of view. And some will just say, you know what, we're not going to see eye to eye, and let's just leave it at that. And he went his way, So to complain about it, it's just the same people that were complaining about the other issue. They just want to.
Gotcha. I hear you, man. And listen, in regards to that philosophical question, again, if you guys have seen this movie, you're in the spoiler section, so we're gonna go deep into this a little bit there. The whole thing of Arsham's design of the Eternals was for them to come to Earth to make sure the planet grew as far as the number of people in the planet, that it just kept calculating, kept growing to create this energy to then birth another celestial. And with the birth of the celestial, it would end the planet, but that celestial will then create another solar system that creates more planets and also more people. So it's almost like...
But is that really what they do? See, because that's where,
go for it, Al. I want to hear this.
No, because I just had a problem, and it was funny because I was watching one of the other reviews after I found, I had to stay off YouTube until I saw the movie Saturday night because come Friday morning, everybody was destroying the movie for me. But
Yeah.
when I finally started watching some of these other movies, somebody made the kind of the point that I was thinking too was the movie starts off with a lie. Remember, they had the scroll, and and in the scroll of the intro to the story, they're talking about how that the Eternals came from planet Olympus or whatever. Meanwhile, they didn't. They came from that world forge. They were created by supposedly Celestials. So,
Yeah.
like, if you're starting the movie off with a lie, and this is what they've been told, and that turns out not to be the truth, then what else have they been told as part of their programming or part of this that's also not true? So yes, was the Earth supposed to give birth to the Celestial? Yeah. But now are the Celestials really going out there and then creating new universes which then bring more life? Or is it just that they got birthed?
And that's actually where
we
I had
want
an
them to
issue
get
too.
birthed,
Like,
So-
because then I think about Ego, right? Ego was a Celestial. And even though he didn't look like Arasham, he was a Celestial. And his whole thing was he made seeds of his power on all these planets, and their whole point was to harvest the planet so that way he can get his power. And that's where Peter Quill came in, and Peter Quill was the seed on Earth. So the problem I can see is, how is Peter Quill the seed on Earth when there was already a seed for Tiamat on Earth, to be the Earth essentially. So then you have, the Celestial who wasn't knowledgeable of another Celestial's plan or, seed potential. So like that was my one issue there. So that's why I kind of agree with Al. Like, I feel like the Celestials are trying to harvest whatever they can to birth more Celestials for their own factions, kind of a thing. Like I feel like, you notice how like Ego was a living planet, and he made a manifestation of a human self for him to use. So he was a planet. Arishem is this big, giant, robot-looking dude, but Arishem wanted to make sure Tiamat was born, and Tiamat looked a lot like him. You know? So I think that they have their own celestial faction, and each celestial is trying to essentially birth more of them in their copies to have more to their faction. So I think there may be like a celestial war in the future.
Yeah. Remember, wasn't that a celestial head in Guardians of the Galaxy that Nowhere
is made up of celestial head. Yep.
So something had to have been going on, and maybe we'll get that backstory in the next Eternals, so maybe that'll be that. But yeah, I don't think that it was really so that they can go and create more life. I think that was just something that they created, and it was a lie. So it just makes you wonder what else was a lie in the movie.
Damn, man. Then Icarus died for no reason. So
I don't think he's dead.
That's the next question. So you don't think he's dead, huh, Brandon?
No, I think Arasham grabbed him. I think he had every intent to kill himself, and Arasham grabbed him just like he grabbed the other three.
Gotcha.
I think we're going to see him again in another movie, but with his memories wiped.
All right. Yeah, because when that happened, when he took his life, I was just like, oh, shit, that's kind of crazy. I couldn't believe that he did that, because I could see the pain in his eyes, and he looked at Cersei. He was just like, I can't believe I just made that call after I killed, Ajax, and I had pretty much a hand in Gilgamesh passing away. So it's like, and I'm bringing all this drama, all the stuff that just happened, destroyed Domo, the ship, and in the end, I decided to help you because I love you. Well,
right? That's deep as hell.
Deep, and listen, let's shout out to some of the other characters in this movie. Druig's power is kind of crazy. I think they didn't show his full force in the movie, besides him being like tough enough to man up on Icarus, knowing that Icarus was stronger, more powerful. Makari, incredible.
Awesome. She's better than the Flash.
Dude, let me tell you something, man. They showed her powers and Icarus's powers. The way that they showed them flying and running fast and doing their thing was incredible. I really enjoyed it, man. Just wow.
I'm a huge Gemma Chan fan now after her as Cersei. I think
Oh,
she was
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
She did her thing.
I'm
She did
so
her thing.
happy that she came back after Captain Marvel. I'm so happy that they gave her another chance.
Yeah, and Captain Marvel, she was the bad guy in it, the
She was
girl.
Minerva, yeah.
Minerva, right. Oh my goodness, man. So listen, let's talk a little bit about the ending there, because after they made the decision there to pretty much kill off Tiamat from actually creating himself, which by the way, man, he was so big, his fingers were coming out of there. I'm like, where is the rest of him in on the earth?
He is the Earth. He's the whole Earth.
Just a little nuts there. But I think when Arsham showed up at the end of the movie to judge or to kind of just take Cersei away and Kingo away, how crazy did that look, man? That was
That was
frightening.
nuts. Him showing up and then pulling them into space, that was nuts.
Al, did you see the clouds part?
Dude, did it not
Oh,
remind you of the ending of the first Mortal Kombat movie where Shao Kahn showed up?
Absolutely.
Especially when he started talking, I am here to judge you. I was like, Shao Kahn?
Oh man, when they show him as just a face in the sky, I was like, oh god, that part. I'll be honest, that part kind of scared me. Like, where are they going with this? Why are they showing him like that? And thank God they did it the way they did, because I thought they were going to turn him into the Cloud of Galactus like they did in Fantastic Four.
Yo, dude, there had to be a bunch of people on Earth who saw that. They're like, I just came back on Earth from Thanos. You know what? I'm done. There's nothing for me to do here.
Oh god.
I just saw a 6-hole eye face look at me, and no, I'm done. There's nothing to live for.
I just got
Like-
snapped, and this is what I get.
Yeah.
You have Tony going, that's the end game up there. No, dude, that guy was.
That motherfucker's the end game for sure.
Oh my Lord, man.
Now here's the question: who was going to judge them?
He is.
I assumed it was going to be him, but people were saying maybe Galactus.
No, or
But
the
Galactus
tribunal, the living tribunal, or whatever that
Oh.
character is.
Oh yeah.
Listen, that can get super weird, but they went there with this one. So,
Yeah.
oh my
And
goodness.
I'm wondering if that's probably what some of these critics have, is that they're getting too far away from earthly heroes.
Right, it's getting into the weird. It definitely got
Yeah.
into the weird with this one, but I was all for it, man, because
But
it
we-
makes
we've been
sense
kind
and the
of
way that
we've
they
got
handled it.
alluded for this for a while now, is that we were heading to space.
Yeah, but they were thinking more Guardians of the Galaxy space,
Yeah.
not this level.
Not that deep ass space. Not
This
that
is
deep space.
universe.
Yeah.
The universe
Not
was
a being so
created.
big that their head was the size of the earth.
But see, like now that's my thing, is like, you've now established Arshem the Eternal, right? Why am I looking towards Galactus at this point? You know, like, when
Right.
this guy has shown me that he's probably worse than Galactus, am I now not caring about Galactus showing up compared to this guy?
Right. I don't even know how you go to Galactus before you finish off Arsham. And then
Right?
once you do Arsham, why would you want to see Galactus?
Exactly. Like that's what I'm thinking now. Like, did they doom the Fantastic Four before we even started?
Or can Galactus be brought in, like, I don't want to say an anti-hero, but just like, like the enemy of my enemy type of situation?
Mm-hmm. Oh, would they get Galactus to help fight Arsham?
Yeah. And that's
Wow.
how he comes into the movie. And then once they deal with Arsham, now it's like, all right, now that we got rid of him, now we go at each other.
Oh God, this is gonna be crazy, man. You know, this kind of leads me to one of my next questions there with you guys, is that, you know, with the MCU movies that we've seen so far, with Shang-Chi, with, you know, Black Widow, with the TV shows on Disney Plus there, we really, out of everything that we've seen, there is nothing that has been the same, as far as they're all aiming towards the same thing. You know what I mean? We have now Arsham is who we're going after from the Eternals. In Shang-Chi, we got to find out where those rings are beaconing to, or beginning from, right? Which I thought they were going to kind of allude to here because I thought Phastos created the rings.
Hmm.
When they were showing the rings, I was like, "Oh, those are the rings," and then it didn't go further than that. So I was like, oh, "Okay, those are not the rings." Right? So then we have Shang-Chi with the rings. Then we have Black Widow showing us the what are they called there? The bolts, the thunderbolts, right? With Yelena, right?
Yeah.
So they got the Yelena with the thunderbolts. Then we don't know what's going on with the Scarlet Witch.
Now, one theory
all
I've
over the
heard, and
place.
I buy it, is that Scarlet Witch was responding to the same voice that was calling what's the villain's name from Shang-Chi?
Oh, the original Mandarin.
Yeah, you remember how he kept saying, like he kept hearing his wife calling him that she needed to be saved. I
Mhm.
think it's one theory I've heard is that Wanda hearing the kids is hearing that same person trying, since the rings didn't work with getting them out, that they responded, and now that they felt the presence of Wanda, trying to get her to get them out.
Oh, this is getting crazy, man. And then you got Spider-Man now coming up. I'm sure Tiamat and Ursham had nothing to do with Spider-Man. So
Now, you know what it made me want to do? Because I think, what I'm going to want to do is during No Way Home, because this takes place, I think, during No Way Home, to see if there's any kind of reference to Tiamat appearing. Like, you know how sometimes they show a news story in the background, and you'll see on the bottom, it'll talk about a story. I wonder if one of those stories scrolling on the bottom will be head appears in ocean or something like that.
Yeah, the MCU is getting pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, it's going everywhere.
It's really getting kind of crazy, and I think it's going to be really hard to keep everything in this MCU bubble. I just don't know how they're doing this or how they plan on doing this. It's just,
And they have a plan. You know they have a plan.
yeah, man. Oh, this is so crazy. All right, so listen, let's talk about those post-credit scenes at the end of this Eternals movie. They got the first one there where it's Druig, Makari, and I believe Athena, they're together, and they're in the spaceship that's called Domo, and they're flying around, and they're saying that they
Domo.
Domo. They're saying they haven't been in contact with with the Eternals that were on Earth that they just had left. With Cersei. I believe Kingo, Cersei, and Phastos were pulled by Ursham.
Yeah.
So they were saying they haven't been in contact with them, and then all of a sudden we get the Star Trek glimmering, and we get Patton Oswalt as Pip, the troll.
How appropriate.
The troll. And then I didn't know who it was on the screen. Brandon was like, "That's Harry Styles," as Eros. What happened now?
Yeah, I didn't know who that was either. I had to look it up on IMDb after. Like, who is
Star
that?
Fox.
Yeah, who is that guy? I mean, I recognized the costume right away. I'm like, oh, that's Thanos' brother, and he was also part of I think he was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy at one point in the comic books or something like that. But he also happened to have that little circle spear, that was inside of Ajax and Cersei in the movie to contact these Celestials. So to me, it's like, oh, this is somebody else who found out how to speak to them or how to find them or kind of talk to them. And he goes, I know where your friends are and I know how to find them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of like, I guess, alluding to an Eternals Part 2.
Yeah.
Are you guys... Go for it, Al.
No, I was going to say, because didn't it say the Eternals will return?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, did you guys hear anything about Eternals Part 2? Or I just thought the story would continue with something else.
Yeah, I read one of the articles saying how there didn't need to be the director Chloe Zhao said that there didn't need to be an Eternals 2. And I was like, well, this one left this pretty open.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I'm assuming that they're going to either link up again in some Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor or something because they're in space. Mm-hmm. Unless there's something out there that we don't know that's coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but are you guys all for Eternals 2 like I am?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that'd be great. I want to see how they complete this story or move on with this story. Knowing that some of those guys, like Cersei especially, are, part of the Avengers going down the line.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then alluding to other movies that are coming out, the second post-credit trailer was Kit Harington's character. I think it was Dane
Dane
Whitlock.
Whitman.
Whitman. Dane Whitman there. And it looks like he found a chest that belonged to the family. And in that chest looks like some kind of a sword. Everybody's alluding it to being the ebony sword from the Black Knight.
Ebony blade.
Or the ebony blade there. And I don't know, like I didn't get anything off of it because I'm not a huge Black Knight fan. I've seen the character before, but never read into him before, never knew that he was part of the Avengers or anything like that. And sure enough, he's gonna touch the blade, and you hear someone in the background going, "I wouldn't do that if I were you," or "You sure you want to do that?" You know what I mean? And at first, everybody was like, "Was that Sam Jackson?" Yeah, it was not Sam Jackson. It was actually Mahershala Ali, and a couple people in the crowd was like, "No, that was Mahershala. That's Blade," And we were like all getting hyped off of it, me and Brandon, because we were like, "Oh shoot." You know what? Now that you think about it, it did sound kind of like Mahershala Ali, but it's weird because you didn't think that anything with Blade was really happening just yet.
Yeah.
But here we go. So, I mean, Al, what's your thoughts with hearing that Blade is his voice there? What does that mean to you? Do you think that means that movie's coming a lot sooner than we think, or what's your thoughts on all that?
I don't know if it means that that's going to be the next movie, but it's definitely letting us know it's coming. I'm just curious as to why they're pairing Blade with the Black Knight. Like,
Look at Brandon. Look at Brandon.
That I thought was an interesting pairing. So, I would have liked to have seen the Black Knight get its own movie, because now I feel like you're taking away from Blade. Blade, I think, is a strong enough character that he doesn't need a supporting, person in the movie. Like, give us Blade's story, and then at the end of Blade, maybe have them pair up, and then you get another character in it. But I thought it was a cool way of introducing Blade without really showing us Blade.
Mm-hmm.
But it took away the excitement of whatever you were building up with Black Knight. Like, you just had Black Knight in the movie. Well, at least what's his name? Dan Whitman. Dane Whitman. Like, you just had him as a character throughout the entire movie, and any excitement about him becoming Black Knight, you just killed in 2 seconds by introducing Blade in the background. So it's the one fear I have with this phase of the MCU is there doesn't seem to be a consensus on the direction. And that's my only overarching fear I have right now is there isn't a story arc that we're following, or at least not one that I'm seeing yet. So I'm just waiting to see, like, where's the consistency? Where are all of these stories gonna diverge? Are they gonna diverge and meet up at some point, or are you just throwing us everything and saying, "All right, guys, it's in the same universe because we're talking about all the different events, but everything is gonna stay separate"? Like, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean that's my fear too, Al, because like I said, we had it wasn't a straightforward line to Thanos, but once it was clear that's where we're going, it was kind of like, hey, this is the next part to get to Thanos and the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet and Endgame. Right now it just seems like just throwing shit.
Here's some space. Here's some Celestials. Here's the multiverse. Here's Kang.
For real. The Dark Avengers. The Thunderbolts. What? Is this leading to a multiverse war? Okay, then what's Arsham doing?
He's got his own war. There's a war up there.
Jeez,
and we still haven't seen whatever they're going to do in Doctor Strange's movie. So it's just,
I don't know what they're doing in Spider-Man's movie.
Brandon, what's your thoughts on Mahershala and Kit Harington there?
I'm excited about it because the comic book the origins of the Black Knight, especially Dane Whitman's Black Knight, because his uncle was the original Black Knight.
Right.
And the origins of Dane Whitman's Black Knight that's changed is the fact that Blade actually does train him to using the ebony blade and understanding the curse that comes with it. And there's a direct relation because the blade is very supernatural. The blade itself, allows Dane Whitman to never die. It allows its wielder to never be killed. But the more Dane Whitman kills or destroys with the blade, the more of a bloodthirst he gets, right? So that kind of mends in with Blade, and Blade kind of teaches him how to acknowledge it and accept it and kind of move through it while living as a superhero. And then the two of them actually were a part of a superhero team called the MI13, which was like the UK's version of the Avengers. With
okay.
Captain Britain. So Blade was actually part of that as well. And so like I think what's going to end up happening is Blade's going to have his own movie, and one of the two end credit scenes is going to have Dane Whitman showing up with the sword. And then maybe they're sparring or something, but like I think that's what's going to happen just because they want to put those two kind of together.
Blade's British?
I don't think so, but he was there training, Black Knight, so
Listen,
maybe he is.
it's most likely vampires in the UK than in New York. So,
probably. I mean, one of the rumors is that Dracula is going to be a part of Moon Knight.
Oh, okay.
So if Dracula's in the movie, I mean, in that Disney Plus show, then that gives Blade a reason to kind of come around and start stomping shit,
Man, very interesting, man. Interesting stuff, man. So listen, let's just go with our final word on this. Again, you guys are hearing us talk about this movie. It definitely comes a lot better than we thought it was going to be. And I guess I'm wondering if all the downplaying of this movie and the Rotten Tomatoes score and all that stuff played along to us, like kind of not expecting too much and then getting the movie that we got made it a lot better for us. But to be honest with you, again, the story was incredible. Even them going back in time to show us what they were going through and what they were seeing and what they were doing kind of added to the story even more and kind of made me get attached to the characters. Brandon was saying it. There's 10 characters in this movie. And Al said it best. We got to know all 10 characters. Like I didn't think I was gonna remember all their names. And here I am talking about Makari, Gilgamesh, Druig, Thena, Fastos, and I know their names and I know their characters and what their powers are. So I got to know the characters in that 2.5 hours, and I cared for them. I thought they were pretty awesome. And there was a couple scenes where I looked at Brandon like, oh yeah. Like I remember Thena talking to Cersei, talking about get up. And I was like, yeah, that's the line right there. So listen, I really think you guys should see this movie, and I hope that people who are watching the spoiler version, you did see it. I'm going to let you guys know there's not a lot of movies I've seen more than once this year. I've seen this movie twice, and I don't think it's great. It's not in my top 5 for this year, but I really did enjoy it, and I saw it twice already. So says enough right there. I didn't see Shang-Chi twice. I didn't see Black Widow twice. I saw Eternals twice. That's crazy. Oh man, Brandon, what's your thoughts, man? Any final thoughts on this movie?
I say you should definitely see it. I mean, it's almost it's a Marvel movie, and it's almost on the you need to see it thing because it's a Marvel movie, So I would say definitely go check it out.
All right, Al, any final words on the movie there, man?
Yeah, no, same. Same thing. I would say it's definitely go see. Even if you're afraid, at this point I haven't seen any of the Marvel movies, I won't understand it. Yeah, you will. They make reference to the events in the other Marvel movies, but only in the sense of how it interacts with their movie. So you still get to understand and appreciate every event in this movie without having seen the other movies. So I definitely, think if this is going to be your introduction to the MCU, it's a good introduction because, like we all said, we don't know where they're going with this. So why not see this kind of an MCU movie, superhero movie, and get a feel for everything? And I think it's a good representation.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. So you guys hear it from us, man. Go check it out. If you haven't seen it yet and you watch you just listen to us spoil it. Yeah. But if you did watch it, man, I hope you kind of think and hear our opinions and kind of say, oh yeah, that's something different I didn't think of, or you go, oh, these guys are freaking cool. They say the same thing that I said. But but listen, that's what we do here on the Real Fan Review. Any of these big blockbuster movies, we're gonna review them, go into a non-spoiler spoiler review. And then the trailers come out, we talk about them. So if it's your first time listening to us because of the Eternals review, again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on a playlist, a podcast playlist, make sure you hit the little plus symbol on your podcast app to make sure that you add us so you get us every week. If you're listening on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. That way we sure that we come to you every week when we put out a YouTube video about what we talked about for the week. So listen, coming out of Long Island, New York, you got my brother B.
Adios, everybody.
We got our man in the chair, Al.
Have a good night, everyone.
And myself, Hav, saying thank you guys. Thank you for listening, subscribing, watching the podcast, playing the podcast while you're driving to work. And just know that next week we're doing a Ghostbusters prep. Oh, that's going to be so much fun, man. It's an old classic. So we're going to be doing a Ghostbusters prep. And if anything crazy comes out of that Disney Plus thing that's coming out on Friday, I think it's Disney Plus Day. We'll definitely talk about it on Sunday. And the podcast comes out usually Monday, Tuesday. Video comes out usually Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll see you guys next week. Until then, guys, we'll see you on the next podcast. Till next time.